right, good evening. Tonight is actually August 22nd, 2013. A couple things to talk about. I'm going to keep it pretty short. Most of you have probably heard about the chemical weapon attack in Syria. It was interesting because I got on Twitter and started searching around, and some alleged experts on chemical weapons, I'm not sure if they are or not, but they claim to be, basically said that the weapons that were used was not sarin, which was the claim. I guess the people had some kind of, or the victims of the Syria attack had, obviously something killed them. I don't think the event was staged, but it wasn't sarin. Is that significant or not to anything? I'm not sure, but I do know this, that it looks like intervention's coming. I just saw a story on one of my news feeds that talked about how Australians are in the United States, military experts they're here to essentially plan the war. And I guess it's like I said, Syrian War is coming for the title of this podcast. It's not coming. It's already been there. This is part of the CIA's Arab Spring plan, or at least originally was. A lot of the jihadists were trained in NATO countries that are central intelligence agents present, along with British and Jordanian and Israeli commandos, allegedly, all training, if not outright involved in combat with Al-Qaeda, the good Al-Qaeda that's in Syria fighting against Assad, as opposed to the bad Al-Qaeda, which is in Afghanistan killing American troops. Same organization, but I guess it just depends on where you are and who you're killing. So whatever the agenda is or was, I'm not sure that the U.S. should be supporting bad guys, but it's a tough call, though, because even though this war, I think, is part of a larger agenda that's been covert, we do have 100,000 people killed, and it doesn't look like there's any let up. And actually, this could lead to World War III, because now we have, I've been seeing reports for a while about Iranians moving Republican Guard troops in to back Assad. I'm not sure how committed the Russians are to keep up their former ally, but I assume it might be higher than we all think. So it's a big mess, and it looks like it's going to escalate. From what I hear, the plan is going to be something along the lines of, basically, the U.S. is going to take, kind of like what we did with Libya, a background role, where in reality we might be doing still the majority of the sorties, but it'll be low-key, and with cooperation of the mainstream media, it won't look like the U.S. is predominantly playing a role. It'll look like we're just doing logistics and providing intelligence and that type of thing, even though we will be doing sorties that with U.S. munitions and planes directly attacking Assad's forces in Syria. It looks like, I guess the plan is going to be to establish a buffer zone and then have the U.S. and Jordanian and Israeli and SAS from the U.K. and other British colonies, former colonies, continue their assault on Assad. Some rumors are that was the reason the chemical weapon was used, if it was used by Assad, is because there's a new offensive now that's being led by various commandos of NATO nations that poses a serious threat to Assad, so he went ahead and used his WMDs, in this case some form of gas, and ended up killing a bunch of civilians and not any of the rebels, at least not that we saw. Again, I'm not 100% sure that Assad's forces did this. I'm pretty skeptical about the groups in the region. I wouldn't put it past them for killing some innocent civilians if it furthers the cause of promoting Western intervention, since I guess the war has been going on for a while, and Assad's forces have been pretty stubborn as far as hanging on. Maybe there was some miscalculations there about how quickly this thing would be wrapped up. And the big loser, of course, is the Syrian civilians. A lot of innocent people got killed in this latest attack. Innocent people, I'm sure, are a big percentage of those 100,000 plus casualties that have happened. Syrian Christians are mistreated by the rebels that we're supporting, in some cases massacred outright, which is another reason why maybe we're supporting the wrong side here. And Assad is no saint. A lot of people try to position Assad in Syria as this regime that's never done any evil. Assad has supported the Kurdish rebellion in Turkey. I have some sympathies with the Kurds as far as that goes, but I don't think violence against a superior military force is going to do anything except have you kill innocent people in your little terror raids, and then the military coming in and killing you, which is pretty much the story of the Kurds in doing their liberation activities in Syria or in Turkey. And Assad was behind that, just a geopolitical play to keep the Turks pegged down on something and bring them down a notch. Assad's been a sponsor in other terror activities across the world for a long time. He isn't as bad as his father, and I don't have any hard data on either in front of me right now. But they're not great good guys. But at the same time, I'm not sure that starting a covert war that gets 100,000 people to date killed, has no end in sight, and could drag a bunch of other powers into the mix is the best means of trying to do a regime change on Assad. In fact, it's probably one of the worst ways we could do. So I predict this is going to become a giant cluster, just like our Egyptian policy of supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. And just to clarify, I see a lot of conservative bloggers talking about, oh my gosh, the so-and-so's brother, or it might have even been Obama's brother, is linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. In actuality, the Muslim Brotherhood is fairly benign from my research for the most part, compared to groups like Al-Qaeda and Hamas. Hamas is actually a splinter group off of the Muslim Brotherhood. I guess the Muslim Brotherhood, at least publicly, espouses nonviolence. I'm not sure how much they stick to that, but I'm sure the Obama administration was making some kind of calculation where they wanted a civilian government as opposed to a military dictatorship in Egypt, and they thought the Muslim Brotherhood would be the best bet out of them all. Muslim Brotherhood got in power and took it too far, so the military and the secularists sided together and threw them out. And also, there's evidence that, just like in our country, over in Egypt, there was some vote tampering to get the Muslim Brotherhood in. You'll have to research that yourself. Again, I don't have the data in front of me, but I remember seeing something about that. So when all the people over here go, oh, it's against democracy to throw the Muslim Brotherhood out, well, maybe not, because it may not have been that all that of a legitimate claim to power. But anyway, I'm sure that the calculation was made to try to get the best possible solution, which was mistakenly decided to be the Muslim Brotherhood in power, and they went too far, and then the military and secularists in Egypt snapped, and now we have a horrible civil war there. And I think this is another element of our Arab Spring clandestine post-fall of the Soviet Union cleanup of all these regimes, which is just being totally bungled from my perspective. And again, I don't know everything. Obviously, I don't have privy to any classified data. I don't know, if this is just random. It seems to me, you have General Clark leaking that, he was told in something like 2005 that there were 7 nations that were going to be rolled up. And, Libya and Syria are on the list. I'm not sure if Egypt was. And it just seems to me like there's some mega plan going on here, and it's just going really south really badly. So, as a Christian, I think that the position is to pray for the people in Syria, that this war would be over as quickly as possible, that a lot of innocents wouldn't get killed, that bad people wouldn't take power, that God would intervene and protect all innocents there, and that the Christians there would be protected and not slaughtered because of their faith. And I think if you're a Christian, you need to lift up the Syrian people in prayer. I haven't been doing that. I need to do that a couple times a week, if not daily. So I encourage you to do that. All right, another topic, switching gears here, talking about Christians being under persecution. This is going to be really controversial, what I'm going to say next. I'm going to try to approach it with kid gloves. Now, regardless of what you think about marriage equity, that isn't so much the point that I'm going to try to bring up. It's not so much that you're pro-gay marriage or against gay marriage. I'm not debating that here. I do have strong opinions, but I won't get into them. You can check out some of my other podcasts or just figure it out. But one of the things that gay marriage or marriage equity is being used as is it's being used as a weapon against people who have biblical worldviews, who are Christians or conservatives. And I think a lot of the time the end game isn't so much that people are so offended that, Joe Blow doesn't like gay marriage. It's more that Joe Blow provides a convenient target by his resistance to gay marriage so that he can be gone after to establish legal precedents that will further provide legal tools to go after the conservative biblical Christian worldview. And we've seen some really big examples of that. One, an Air Force officer who didn't believe in gay marriage was transferred by his lesbian commander. And to be honest, I really don't know the whole story. There's times where having a political opinion, especially in the military, is very inappropriate. So this guy may have just talked when he shouldn't have talked, and maybe it's his own fault. Or maybe he's a guy who said, I'm going to take a stand for biblical morality, and it might cause me to lose my position or face persecution, and he did it willingly, and it worked. But there was some other instances lately that bothered me. Oh yeah, two millionaire gay gentlemen who want to get married have decided that they want to get married in a church, and the church said no, again because they believe in biblical morality. And the two gay millionaires decided to sue. They've got deep pockets, so they can engage in lawfare. Only the elite in our society can do that because it's extremely expensive. So this church is going to be put under extreme financial pressure. I don't know. I haven't looked into the church or its size or its financial resources, but these type of legal attacks, if you don't have deep pockets, even if you think you're in the right, you might lose just because you might run out of resources before you can wade through the whole process to defend yourself. And there are people that are very much aware of this, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if these two millionaires can have decided that this church might be a weak pocket. They have deep pockets, and they can take this to court. And what I call this is it's gay fascism. I mean, there's a difference between being tolerant, saying, I don't necessarily agree with you because the way you live or whatever, but I'm not going to force my ideology down your throat as long as you don't force yours down mine. That's what tolerance is. And what we're seeing is the opposite of tolerance. First, it was sold as tolerance to be accepting of various things, not just gay marriage, that's just one of them, but that abortion's good and all this type of stuff. And now it's becoming almost like it's gone from tolerance to ideological fascism, where if you don't toe the official ideological line of the regime and its morality, which is essentially embracing a religion, which typically the same people who say separation of state or separation between church and state out of one side of their mouth, are the same people who advocate a universal morality that we all must embrace. And if we don't, we become enemies of the regime. I was thinking about this. What if you're really vocal on a couple contentious moral issues, and then you go to get a passport? Right now, you can probably get it no problem, but 5 years from now, will you be flagged when you go to employment and companies search social media and that type of thing? Will this be a red flag? Will you be denied employment because of political ideologies? So there is this ideological fascism that's coalescing in kind of an official morality of the society, and I'm going to use the word Reich, New Reich. And if you don't buy it, then you're an enemy of the state. And I understand that, obviously there's certain fringe, obviously no one thinks that it's right to go out and do all sorts of really evil stuff. But we're talking about stuff here where significant percentage of the population has moral disagreements, and one side is becoming very pushy about trying to force its will, using all sorts of tools through the media, through lawfare, through peer pressure to get one side to change its mind. Some of those moves are legitimate. That's just political discourse, and I have no problem with that. But when it starts getting into lawfare and stuff like that, I think it goes too far and it becomes fascist. That gay couple could easily go get married somewhere else, just like if there was a heterosexual couple and they wanted to get married at a gay church for some reason, the gay church could say, no, we only marry gay people here, you have to go somewhere else. I mean, I don't know. I guess the argument could be made that, it's similar to previous racism type stuff where, certain people, depending on your color or whatever, were denied going to certain places, and a lot of people will try to push this as that. But this is behavioral related. This isn't racial. So I think there's a difference. You might disagree with that. But anyway, the broader point that I'm trying to make is there are efforts to use these contentious issues as political weapons to go after certain groups that have certain ideological convictions, and a lot of times these particular issues are just footballs. The end goal is to destroy the other side, not to get them to change their mind on one specific issue. So this is something that should be watched. I think that's it for tonight. Those are the two big points. That one's pretty contentious, so I'll probably just leave it there. So thanks for listening, and have a good night.